Where do we even begin? From season finale, episode 10 has arrived, bringing the curtain down on an epic season of the show.
It means remember.
This one answered many of our biggest questions going into it, while still teasing the fact that we've barely scratched the surface.
You're a story walker.
So for one last time, grab your talismans because it's time to break it all down.
Your wife shouldn't have dug that hole, Jim.
Before we dive in, don't forget to leave a thumbs up on the video if you enjoy it, and remember to subscribe to the channel if you'd like to see more of our videos. Now, without further ado, let's get into From Season 3, Episode 10, titled Revelations Part 2.
What was she doing?
What?
Out at the shack. Why was she out there?
Hey, I think Elgin knows. I think he knows where Fatima is.
Okay, so going into this one, both Tabitha and Julia have had some pretty unique experiences. Julia's discovered that through the ruin, she's able to travel back in time, although she doesn't fully understand the limits to that right now, which we'll get onto later. And Tabitha saw the night Miranda left for the bottle tree after giving Victor and Eloise a hug goodbye. The search for Fatima, who's been abducted by Elgin, believing it's the only key to go home, continues, and that's where we pick up. After Elgin partnered with Ellis for the search, he ended up talking way too much, which then led Ellis to becoming suspicious of his involvement. This leads Boyd, Ellis, Kenny, and Sarah to confront him. They brought Sarah along because of what she went through herself with the voices that told her to kill previously, also suggesting it was a way for everyone to go home. So they think if Elgin hasn't just lost the plot and he's actually being spoken to by someone or something, then she'll be able to reason with him and get the truth out. Once confronted, it doesn't take long for him to admit what he's done, but they're having no luck finding out where she's being kept. And this is when Boyd refuses to let the town hurt his family once again, and decides to go down the old torture route. Whilst in the shed gathering tools up to carry it out, Father Koch reappears, and once again, he tries to be the voice of reason. He tells him that if he does this, then the town has won, and he's gone down a path he can't return from.
You need to decide right now who you are.
At this point, there's no getting through to him though, and he does a number on Elgin's hand as he still refuses to talk. The screams can be heard downstairs as Acosta arrives and she goes up to confront him. Whilst distracted, Sarah looks to pick up from where Boyd left off, as she's already the town's resident baddie, so not only would it save Boyd further tarnishing his name, but also it might buy her some brownie points with some of the others if she can find out where Fami's being kept. A screwdriver to the eye later, like Sarah really has no chill these days, but it's job done. Fatima's in the root cellar. Now, whilst the truth all comes out in Colony House, the puzzle pieces are also falling into place at the bar as Jade, Tabitha and Jim try to find a connection with the numbers on the bottle tree, and that's when Jim has the idea that they could represent musical notes. And once Jade begins to piece things together with that in mind, he begins to hear the music playing in his head. He could also hum along to it, even though he'd never heard it before in his life. Now, Jim, sitting on the cautious side here, tells him to stop. This place has a pretty sinister connection when it comes to music so far, and suddenly hearing it in your head might not necessarily be a good thing. And at this moment, they really should have listened to Jim here, which we'll get onto. Anyways, thinking it's best to play the music in full away from the town, they take it back to the bottle tree where the numbers were found. Playing it on his violin, not only Tabitha but Jade sees the kids appear from the trees too. One of the kids steps forward and kneels down in front of Tabitha, and it seems coupled with the reveal of the music, she remembers what the made up word Ankui actually means. We then learn that the reason both Tabitha and Jade can see the Ankui kids, that their experiences connect, is because they tried to save them kids before. In fact, more than once. They were in the town when it all began, and they used to sing the children lullabies because one of them was their daughter. The time before now, Tabitha was Miranda and Jade was Christopher, but their time goes back way further than that, with the two of them destined to end up in that town again and again and again because they keep failing what they've been put there to do. This also explains why the music, which was used to help them remember, was actually in music and not in any kind of language, because music's universal. Regardless of who they might come back as in the future, Jade will always be able to read it. Now, if you thought that was a lot to take in, Fatima goes into labour and she's got that creepy woman Elgin's been speaking to playing monster midwife. So she ends up giving birth to a sack, which the woman then takes down the floor hatch that seemed to magically open on its own. It's at this point Ellis and the gang arrive, and it looks like Elgin was right in regard to Fatima being, I don't want to say okay, but alive. However, the nature of what she was carrying, it couldn't be further from the truth. So Boyd, sensing an opportunity for answers, tells Ellis to take Fatima back to the town whilst he goes down the hatch alone.
I'll be right behind you. Okay.
A big reveal comes from Fatima here too. At some stage, while she was either laying in a cellar or while she was in labour even, she saw exactly what these monsters are. They were once people who sacrificed their children, which are the Ankui kids, in turn for being able to live forever. Now, down in the hatch, which leads to the tunnels, the forest monsters are all standing around the sack on the floor, which then begin to get bigger and bigger, and it's a humanoid shape, you can make that out at least. Until our old friend Smiley literally hatches out of it like a newborn spring chicken. There's one side of me that's happy to see he's back because, let's face it, he was always one of the best monsters, but the other side of me just really hates him at this point with that smile at the same time. So really, what this means is the whole Fatima situation actually started when Boyd killed Smiley to save Ellis in Season 2. We now know Smiley's supposed to live forever, so he was brought back, which is why the town, in the first time in recent history, experienced winter. So it would kill the crops, giving a baby Smiley that's growing something to eat. So yeah, still dealing with the huge Tabitha and Jade reveal. Tabitha needs some time alone, and Jim certainly does too. This is the woman that, even though they've had their ups and downs, he likely believed that she was his soulmate, the mother of his 2 children, and now he's found out he's been kind of a spare part the entire time. She was always destined to return to the town with her lover from a past life. Now, I called this connection between Tabitha and Jade a while back. There just seems something natural there, which might actually be built upon in future seasons. And I just want to put this out here right now. Jim, unlike Tabitha and Jade and some of the others, I don't think was ever destined to end up in the front town. I don't think he ever had any connection to the place. He was only there because he was with Tabitha at the time it took her. So if he never met her, the poor guy would probably be out there in the real world somewhere right now, happily building roller coasters. I mean, imagine for a second if he did have a connection and he ends up coming back as a toddler. That would be so weird. Anyways, he makes his way back to the RV. When he hears Julie screaming his name, she runs towards him in a panic, telling him to go back to town. It isn't safe there, that she needs to change the story, and she thinks this is when it happens. And in all this confusion, a person/creature appears from the side of him wearing a yellow jacket. Now, we've not seen this one before, but I think we've heard him. I believe he was the one on the radio that told Jim Tabitha shouldn't be digging that hole, because if so, then he repeats that exact line here. Now, he's out during the day, and he links it to the music Jade just played by the bottle tree, saying that with knowledge comes consequences, effectively, which I think means now Tabitha and Jade's memory has been unlocked, so something else which allows the creatures to appear at any given time, with the talismans perhaps no longer able to protect their houses as well. But it turns out Jim was actually right to tell Jade converting the numbers into musical notes back in the bar was a bad idea, as the yellow jacket dude then rips his throat out, which of course kills him. Now, let's rewind just for a second. It all happened so fast. What we've just witnessed here is Julie from the future coming to save Jim from his death.
I need to change the story, Dad, please.
We know she's from the future as her face is all cut and she has a different hairstyle when 5 minutes earlier she had longer hair. So she's probably in the future grieving over the death of her father and wants to come back and save him. She said she needed to change the story, and if you remember in present time, Julie was actually in the diner talking to Ethan, where she's just revealed the secrets of the ruins to him, where he then called her a story walker. It's here she had the idea of going back and saving Tian Chen and perhaps even Thomas. And of course, this is before she knew what was going to happen to her dad, but Ethan tells her she can't, meaning she can't change the events that happen because that part of the story has already been told. She can witness them, but she can't do anything about it. And when we go back and think about when she threw the rope down to Boyd, that's exactly the same as what we've just seen her do here with Jim. She always threw the rope to Boyd. That's always been how he escaped. She never saved her dad, and in fact, she might actually hold herself partially responsible now for his death. As if she didn't call out his name in the manner she did, stopping him from whatever he was doing, perhaps he wouldn't have been killed. But just to set the record straight, there was never a version here where Jim died alone. Julie was always there. She just didn't know that until she actually went back and watched history play out in real time. And perhaps that's actually how Marty knew her name back in the tower the first time she went in, because he's seen her there before, whereas for her it was still the first time. So yeah, come the end of season 3, we did get another big character death, with this one being massive. Let's not forget, this whole story started with the Matthews family in the RV, and perhaps we'll see him appear a little bit like Hatchery, maybe even haunting Tabitha as she remains there with her past life lover Jade. But anyways, if this felt to you like a big episode full of reveals, it's because it was. But when you think about it, it's only really revealed the reason 2 people were in the town. Yeah, we now know why it's winter, and perhaps when we come back it'll be spring or summer again, but I doubt people like Boyd or Donna were there because they were singing lullabies to the kids. There's so much more to it than meets the eye. They've probably got their own stories yet to unravel. And I also think we'll probably get some new arrivals at some point that have been there too. I don't think it will be Jim, but maybe we could get a Tilly or a Father Cottrey, who knows? But if they're from the town from when the show started, then technically they would still be coming in as kids, which would be a little odd. Anyway, one of the big questions we have leaving season 3 now is, Fatima told Ellis something promised them that the monsters could live forever if they sacrificed their kids. So what exactly is that something? Which in turn would actually be responsible for everything that's transpired there. Honestly, with how the show's going, we're 3 seasons in and it feels like we're only beginning to scratch the surface of what's actually going on. And yet each season they deliver a great finale whilst also leaving us with a ton of questions to sit on as well. You can tell this is really a show that's got so much more left in the tank to give, and I hope with all the publicity it's been getting of late, more people will find the time to sit down and check it out between now and season 4. So as we await the next season, I want to know if you think Jade playing music has made it so the monsters can come out during the day now, or is it just the one that killed Jim for whatever reason is an exception to that? As always, drop your thoughts, theories, and wild speculations down in the comments below. Don't forget to leave a thumbs up on the video if you've enjoyed it, and subscribe to the channel if you'd like to catch more. I'll catch you in the next one. Peace.